Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and today I'm joined by Aamanda from AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, and Candid Cinema. And today we're going to be sharing our thoughts, our opinions on A24's latest film that is hitting theaters as of April 12th, 2024, and that is Civil War. Before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to our show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X, or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Aamanda, what's going on? How are you? It's been a while. Actually, it hasn't been that long. What was the last thing you were on? I can't remember now. You came on for something. It was a book of something. Something.
What was it? I'm looking through. We didn't do Damsel.
No,
it was Dune.
Dune. That's right. Yeah, spoiler for that's right. Yeah. It wasn't too long ago. I was like, I knew you came on for something. I couldn't remember what it was. But yeah, how have you been? What's going on? And are you excited to talk about some Civil War action?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just settling to a new schedule, and I have a lot more free time as of now. So I don't know what to do with myself. So I've been trying to watch more stuff, more television. But yeah, it's been pretty relaxing. I can't complain. Work's been good. Been reading a lot, and I had a pre-screening for Civil War. I love Alex Garland. I think he's a very underappreciated filmmaker. I've always liked his stuff, and before Ari Aster came out with stuff, before Robert Eggers came out with anything, for me, Alex Garland was the one to watch. And he's been surprising me left, right, and center. So I think Civil War is awesome. I think it's a really good film, and it's very him after watching it. So I think it was just very unique.
Well, I gotta say, I was pretty disappointed by this movie because Captain America does not show up at all. I was like, where is he?
I knew
where is he?
I knew you were gonna.
I thought this was a sequel to Captain America. What's going on here? I'm very confused. No, I'm just joking. I did enjoy it myself as well, but I'm glad that you are doing swell on this.
Thanks.
Fine. What is it? Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. It's a light gray outside here in Music City. It's been like this the entire week, which kind of sucks.
We got some sun.
Did you get the eclipse at all?
We did. We got the full out eclipse. It was pretty wild here. Everyone went to Niagara Falls to watch it happen, and it was really cool. It got pitch black here for a little bit, 4 minutes, and I was like, oh, the moon is doing stuff and things. So that was pretty cool.
I remember seeing a tweet. Somebody tweeted, they're like me the day after waking up from the eclipse, and it showed the clips. Well, no, it showed the clip where Tobey Maguire wakes up when he's in the black Spider-Man suit. It's where am I? I was like, my God, that was hilarious. But yeah, unfortunately, we weren't really in the path of totality. You could kind of see it from here in good old Music City, but it got kind of gray, a little dark, and then it was over before we knew it. But I was actually working during the time, so I kind of missed it. But my cousin caught a pic of it, and she had sent it to me. I think I put it up on my Instagram story. It was actually pretty awesome. I was like, oh, wow. But, everyone in Ohio was super excited because I was making fun of them because there's really nothing to do in Ohio. And I was texting my friends. I'm like, hey guys, today's the big day. They're like, yeah, we can't wait for the eclipse. I'm like, yeah, you guys finally have something to do in Ohio. And they're like, oh, ha ha. I'm like, no, but seriously, when there is a coming attraction. Yeah, people are driving up. I'm like, the last time they really had something going on was when the Cavs won the championship. That and the Indians being in the World Series. Now the Guardians, but I don't follow baseball, so I don't care. I don't care too much about it.
He's like, fun fact, but I don't care. It's like,
fun facts. Here's your fun facts for the day. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you're doing great. I'm glad you're able to view the eclipse.
Mm-hmm. Good times.
Yeah, really good times. Really, really good times. I caught one. It was like 7 years ago here in Nashville. I think it was some kind of eclipse. And I caught that. That was pretty cool. But it wasn't the same type of eclipse that happened this time.
Yeah.
It was a different. Yeah. I forgot the name.
I feel like I've seen one too. Like there's been a couple, but obviously not like this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen them in our lifetime. It's not like we haven't. But this one was just like magic, you know?
Yeah. No, seriously though, it was pretty cool to see. I saw a lot of shots online. I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like it's just space is pretty neat, don't you think? So
that's literally what I tweeted. I was like, I love space, like right after, because I'm such a nerd. I'm like, it's so sick. Like, how can anyone not be amazed by what we just saw? You know,
I'm amazed by space. I just don't want to visit space. Like,
oh God, no.
I can admire space from afar, literally.
Yeah.
From afar. Wow, that's pretty awesome.
That's why I'm not an astronaut and I don't work for NASA. But
yeah, my combination of fear of heights, that's okay. I'm fine with my feet planted here on the ground.
Exactly.
But as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be giving our spoiler-free review of Civil War. I say spoiler-free. There really isn't anything to spoil. There's a few things that we'll try to dance around. But without further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to Civil War.
Citizens of America.
People of the Florida Alliance.
You gotta move! And the Western forces of Texas and California will be welcomed back to these United States as soon as their illegal secessionist government is deposed.
You don't know what side they're fighting for.
Someone's trying to kill us. We are trying to kill them.
And we are back with our review of Civil War. This film is directed and written by Alex Garland and stars Nick Offerman, Kirsten Dunst, Jefferson White, Nelson Lee, Jess Matney, and so many more. This is actually a star-studded cast. And of course, we have Jesse Plemons making his return, as well as Callie Spaney, who is one of the, if not the main character of this film. And the synopsis is as follows. A journey across a dystopian future America following a team of military-embedded journalists as they race against time to reach D.C. before rebel factions descend upon the White House. Now, as to my understanding from my facts that I've checked online, this is like the first step before, America kind of gets into the Hunger Games situation. That's how I am viewing all of this. I'm like, this is step one into Pan Am becoming a thing.
Oh God. I mean, it kind of looked that way in this movie,
did.
So it's not far.
I was like, man. I'm like, so this is how the Hunger Games starts in real life, huh? With a war? Yeah, there was a war. There was a war. But Jesus. Amanda, I'm going to pass it over to you. What are your thoughts on this film?
That's actually a loaded question because a lot of people online after watching this have either called this a masterpiece or they have said that this is a completely empty film. And although I don't think it's a masterpiece, there's no way that you can say this thing was empty because apart from like the political commentary, I was holding my breath the entire time. There's something for audiences to watch here. There's something that this film has to offer apart from the political commentary. I don't necessarily think that Alex Garland wanted to focus on that specifically. What I do appreciate about this film is that it shows how tough photojournalists have it in the war zone. I think getting into the heart of it was something that he showed visually extremely well. I think that the sound design was incredible. I have to say that the editing was really strong. I do think that the depiction of what photos mean in its longevity in the world and in history is also really important in this film. That's another takeaway from this, because I really love Kristen Dunst, even though she gave more of an internal performance. I think she was great. And I think passing the torch on to Kaylee Spaney, who was also phenomenal in this and gave more emotional performance. They were both great. And it's just the focus on, I guess, because I wrote this in my review, I think it was more so like you have a seasoned photojournalist who experienced her own trauma, trying to warn this like young, naive photojournalist who's like eager to learn and to be part of something. And then, you know, the trauma she has to eventually carry her own trauma by the end of this. So I think that the story focuses on like photojournalists and how they need to be honest, no matter what side anyone is on. And I think that that's a really important takeaway from this, instead of like, they didn't talk about like what started the Civil War and like what, like whose side is who. It's like that. None of that matters. None of it matters because none of it ever matters. And I think that's what Garland was trying to say with this film.
Honestly, I think you actually took the words out of my mouth, because I was also a big fan of this film. I had written on Letterboxd, also saw it during an early screening. I pretty much said it was a American Horror Story come to life. It's an incredibly well produced movie. You know, seeing this in IMAX, you definitely get the full effect of everything. And I don't know if A24 has ever done like a full shot in IMAX movie. I could be wrong, but you know, at A24 yet again showing its chops. They showed us, usually, you know, for press screenings, it's just, you know, it starts 7:00, whatever. Like that's when the movie starts. But ours, you know, fan screening, critics were there. But they showed us like 30 minutes of trailers, which is weird. But I did get to see Maxine, that trailer, on the big show. I was pretty excited for that. But back to what I was saying, I think Civil War is an incredibly well-produced, edited movie. When it comes to the sound design, it's up there. Like you like every gunshot, every bomb explosion, every scream, every yell, every cry, every wail was like, you were there. And this movie is not for the faint of heart for anyone out there, but I think people are still going to appreciate it, or at least the people who will appreciate the gritty journalistic perspective, because like you said, these are, and more so really the journalists, at least in this movie, or any journalist covering, war events. They're really more the front lines than the actual front lines, because, you know, they are dressed up in protection, you know, Kevlar and whatnot, but they're not carrying weapons. They're there to capture moments in time and to, you know, for the rest of the world. And I think it's one of the rawest films I've seen in a long time. This is a very raw film. This is a very real film. I like how Alex Garland, excuse me, I don't want to say his full name. I like how we got an outside perspective. You know, he is a UK director, or British director, I should say. And I'm not trying to get political here, but being an American and obviously living here my entire life, we're a very boastful country, and everyone knows our business because we make it known that everyone knows our business. And I know I saw a lot of people online kind of disagreeing, saying, well, why is Brit, covering like an American Civil War, like a modern day American Civil War? It's like, because him and the rest of the world, in a way, like this is, I mean, it's a crabby thing to say, but this is kind of how some countries may view us. It's like, we're divided on a lot of issues. Again, not trying to get super political. It's just laying out the facts, where it's like, not everyone, when it comes to America, it's always controversy, like one-on-one, like all the time. But when we're talking about the film, you have the journalists who, regardless of what their political stance is, and you're right when you were saying, everyone's saying, oh, like, well, what started the war? It doesn't matter. It is the mootest point in the world. The fact is that we are thrown in to the middle of this war that's been going on for God knows how long. We get a few hints as to what's kind of started the war, not like the event that started the war, but like snowballing effects, with the president saying that, he want electing a third term and like getting rid of the FBI and all the other agencies. But it's like, yeah, the war of, it doesn't matter what started the war, because even though it's called Civil War, that's not what the movie is about. The movie is about the journalists who are covering the war. Like, you are effectively a journalist. You're taking this journey with them. And
it's true.
It's kind of like a meta thing. You're seeing the aftermath of this war, how everyone's on edge, no matter how peaceful some parts of the country may seem, they always have protection. And there's a lot of scenes in this movie where, the main cast, they're trying to get gas. It's like a cross-country trip, post-apocalyptic, has a bit of the Last of Us vibes-esque in a way, but like there's an actual war going on. Like these characters are going to grab gas, and they're like, hey, like, we don't want any trouble. Like, we're press. We're here to give people the unbiased news. This is a very apolitical film, but people are so on edge. They're like, yeah, like, sorry, can't help you unless, you have something really good just to get gas. And it's like, that's the crazy part of how on edge people are in this movie. But I don't know. I thought it was great. Like, I really enjoyed myself. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I think it's a really good movie.
I think people, when they really like something, that's just like the word that they use. And it's like, I can say, yo, it's really good, but I'm not going to go straight up and call something a masterpiece. And that always happens out of a festival. And I get it. I've covered festivals. I've walked out of film saying, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And then you go back and watch it, you're like, wait a minute. Like, it's not, you have like rose-colored glasses during festivals. So I understand it. But going back to what you said about like there being like tension just based off of, the people that they meet along the way, I think it's perfectly done and executed all the way up to when we meet Jesse Plemons, because all he had to say, and it's the main question that is in the trailer, it's the main question, that they've been marketing everywhere, is like, well, what kind of American are you? That is why everyone's like, oh, but this is overly simplistic. But that's the whole point of why war is stupid in the first place, because it comes down to like the dumbest thing that you can fight over, like, what kind of American are you? So it's like, when people get rattled, I'm getting heated now, but it's just the fact that like, it's not everything has to be so layered. And this is coming from a person that absolutely hates anything that's at surface value. And they don't go deeper, because I love knowing everything about a character. I love knowing, the history of whatever storyline that they're telling me. I like to go into the depths in these films. And sometimes like a film like this, it's okay, because you're going into, emotional depth and trauma and psychological trauma that these journalists face when they see, bloodbaths on the street, when they see war, when they see innocent people dying. Like, that's more effective and makes an impact more so than trying to figure out why these two sides are fighting, to me. And I think that the people are just losing. I think they're losing the meaning of the film, because then people are like, but in today's society, you can't really be apolitical. And I'm like, a lot of people are apolitical. Like, a lot of people do not want to talk about choosing a side. They don't want to talk about it. Like, a lot of people do not even discuss politics, because the landscape of speaking about politics has changed entirely after Trump's presidency. So it's like, it is like this. And for Alex Garland, like you said, to be British and providing this commentary is very interesting, considering like how the world views America. So
I agree, like 100%, because obviously this has to be an apolitical movie. And like you said, when it comes to politics, like most people are apolitical because most people don't want to talk about politics, like at all. They just want to, live their lives, hang out with friends and family, do whatever they find, finding their passion, just living life. And it's like, yeah, this movie is so freaking good when it comes to what kind of American are you? That whole scene, like you said, with Jesse Plemons, it's so crazy. I was so tense the entire time, and I was like, man, I didn't know that he could, like, I knew that he was a great actor, but I think this is the first time I've really seen him in a true, just unhinged villain or antagonist, however you want to call it, like aspect. I mean, I think the first movie I've ever seen him in was like Mike, which is like ages ago, and like nobody knows he's in that movie.
I had no idea until you just said that, because his face looked so familiar when I was watching Game Night, and I'm like, where the hell is this guy from? And now that you said it, it is like Mike. But Game Night's like one of my first introductions to Jesse Plemons, and he's absolutely hilarious in that film. But for me, he's like the most versatile actor that I've seen in a while. Like, you can stick him anywhere, and it's like, yeah, Jesse Plemons is in this. Like, you just get so excited for this man. But I totally agree that entire scene, I don't think they could have picked a better actor to portray that character in that manner, because I was freaking out. And I think Kaylee Spaney too, because she has such like a pure, innocent face. I think it just added to my anxiety level watching it, because I'm like, nobody better like hurt my girl. Like, do not hurt her, because she's such a sweetheart, and she looks like she's a sweetheart. So that whole scene was just wow.
And like what you're saying, during that scene where he's trying to figure out like what kind of American people are, and he's just knocking heads. Like, he's slicing, he's dicing, and it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what side you're on, and ergo, it doesn't matter what started the war. What the most scary thing about this is that all of this is entirely realistic. Because like all those explosions and the cries and the wails, people being set on fire that you're seeing, it's like this is the purge, but it's not the purge. This is like war purge kind of stuff, where people are just doing whatever. Like they're certain pockets of the country are trying to keep some kind of order, but it's like when you see with like Jesse, like he didn't have to just like kill like just random people, but he was the person that was in power during that time. And I think it was actually one of the characters was saying, like, oh, like you don't know what side you're fighting for. In another scene, I think he had mentioned that the sniper thing, where it's like, hey, well, it's us against them. And one of the characters is like, well, you don't know what side you're fighting for. He's like, well, I told you, someone over there is trying to kill us, and we're trying to kill them. So this is literally has become survival of the fittest, eat or be eaten. And like you said, it doesn't matter what side that you're on, because all you know is that people are out there and they're out there to get you. And like you can see with every interaction outside of like the military base, where they're coming across these these groups of people where everyone's just on edge and no one knows who to trust. They don't even bother saying, oh, so like what side are you on? The Western Front or, whatever the other ones were called. I'm blanking on them, but it was divided out kind of weird. But it's like, it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's literally you against the entire world. Like,
yeah. It's true. And at the end of the day, like I was trying the whole movie, and I think this is why I went back from like grading it a certain way. It's because the whole movie I was trying to figure out, but like who is on this side and who is on this side. And it kind of frustrated me afterwards. But then the more I talked about it, the more I'm like, none of it matters. At the end of the day, if someone's pointing a gun at me, I don't care which side they're fighting for. They're pointing a gun at me and I have to protect myself. Like, that's exactly it. And you're so right now that you say it. Like, that's what I've been battling in my head, because it's like, I really liked this film. And then it's just, there's still not enough that they gave us. But it was still just enough at the same time. Like, it's hard to explain when it comes to the political side of this film. But yeah, I think the fact that it's so polarizing online, again, like this is the second movie for him next to Men, which I actually enjoyed.
That was freaky.
I really liked it. It went south in the third act, don't get me wrong. Like, he really drove it home, but like I really liked it for what it was. But I don't think this film should be as polarizing as it is, because I think people are going to still talk about it all weekend. Like, this is just not going to end, but I do have to say, leading into the third act, like I guess the final 30 minutes, I think is some of the best like work I have seen from Alex Garland. I think the execution of that last sequence going into the White House was absolutely phenomenal. I just had to mention that because I'm like, it was so good.
Yeah. And I think we were kind of talking about visual storytelling on our Dune Part 2 review, where I think Alex Garland does the same thing with Denis, where it is literally visual storytelling here, especially towards the very end there. It's just like what their goal is, but especially like one of like the big moments that happens before the big moment, where it was like, honestly, it was like the perfect shot, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, that was actually a really good shot. And then a photo, I should say, but it captures so much. And you see how even these journalists, these photographers are affected by this journey that they're on and just the war around them, because it gets, like they are effectively biased, but again, people just, they don't care. They're just like, get out of my way, like leave, like, it is what it is. People have guns, and it's just like, hey, like I have a gun, I'm in power. And it's one of those, it really makes you think, because it's like this could definitely happen. Not saying that like, Alex Garland's like a soothsayer, like a South Park kind of guy, where it's like, or Simpsons or whatever. But it's a reminder, because everyone's like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is happening. It's like, I mean, stuff like this happens all over the world, and like clearly of what's happening now, over in Gaza and pretty much just everywhere else. It's like, we're just not seeing it. But I think Alex Garland I think he did a great job. I love the characters. I loved, of course, you have Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst. They're married and they're sharing this crazy scene together, and it's so weird, because it's like they never, it's as if they never met, like in that scene, and it's like, wow,
they're so good.
And you haven't seen Kirsten Dunst in a while.
No, and since Power of the Dog, which you tend to forget about. So
part of the Who, the Who.
My point, they're both in it, so that's why it makes me laugh. You just like, you don't care about it. Makes me laugh.
I'm sorry, I have no recollection of that at all.
And because you slept. Anyways, Power of the Dog is one of my favorite films in the past like decade, so I really loved it. Anyways, besides the point, Kirsten Dunst, for me, I think she's just had difficulty finding roles for herself now as an older woman in Hollywood. And I think this was absolute perfection for her. I think people tend to forget how talented she actually is. And I really loved in the final sequence, because it ties it all together, she was in shambles. Her character was in absolute shambles, while Kaylee Spaney was like, oh my God, this is the first time I'm covering something like this. And you just see the contrast of like, Kirsten Dunst is there and she's like, I'm reliving all of my past trauma while still doing my job. Like, that's how like incredible like that moment is, that entire sequence is. And then what transpires between Kaylee and Kirsten in one particular scene, and you know exactly the one I'm talking about, in the end was just devastating. And I just love, you know what I mean? Like, again, like for me, like the pictures that were taken, I think that's why the editing for me, and even like you hear the camera shutter, the sound design is really important. But for me, and I said this in my review, whenever you see one of the photos on screen and there's a freeze frame that they're editing in, that picture is going to last for an eternity, and the only people that are going to know the context of that photo are the ones that actually were in that room. So for Garland to put the audience in this kind of like duality of processing that is incredible work, because you don't think about that. You don't think about what happened in the moment. You're just analyzing the one photo.
That's true. Yeah, that is very true. And I think that was perfectly said, because it's almost the same as, you know, we see how these films are made. We don't see everything behind the screen. Like you're seeing a really just like a blip in time, especially when it comes to photos. Yeah. And, you know, that can be spun so many ways that you don't even know. And it's like you said, like the people in that, the only people who really know the context of what actually happened are the people in or in the room where it happens, you know? So it's very telling. And people don't really seem to understand how, you know, obviously people taking stuff out of context all the time when it comes to photos and interviews and clips and all that stuff. But I think Alex Garland and company did a fantastic job, because like you say, with Kirsten Dunst's character, just came a long way, at least for me. I think Jumanji was the first thing that I've seen her in. And I think she was even younger when she was in Little Women. But
even Interview with a Vampire.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. But it's nice to see Kirsten Dunst in a good movie. You know, just doing her thing. I'm just messing around.
You better be.
Wow, you better be.
She's our Mary Jane. How can you say that?
She is. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I love Kirsten Dunst. I do love every performance that she's ever given. That's one nice thing I'll say about Power of the Dog.
Fine.
That's all you're getting.
That's all you're getting.
That's all you're getting.
Terrible.
But no, it really was nice to see her again. And it's like, you know, she's been here and there, but I feel like Jesse Plemons has actually been picking up more roles than her lately, because he was also in Love and Death. I'm not sure if you saw that with him and Elizabeth Olsen. It was really good. It's very good. And just everyone's acting chops, especially Callie Spaney's. Like you said, she's like this bright-eyed person who wants to make like her hero proud, and wants to do what she's doing when it comes to being a photographer. But you also look at Kirsten Dunst's character. I think it was Lee. I think that's what her name was. And she's so desensitized at this point in time. Like not even desensitized. She's jaded, like 1000%. Just nothing phases her. You know, there was a nice little moment when she tries on a dress and she's like, oh, like, you know, it's been a while since I've looked at myself in the mirror. Because it's like, none of that matters. Because it's like, you know, she's too busy, you know, out there just trying to document the events of this war. And
yeah,
it's scary, you know. It can be, but it's a reminder at the same time where I love how apolitical it is. Because it doesn't pick a side. It's very just like straight on through. Like you said, it doesn't matter what started the war, because the war is not really what the movie's about, even though it's called Civil War. Like you're seeing the events and things happening in the middle of this war, but it's about these photographers trying to get the scoop. You know, trying to reach the president, like because of, you know, trying to get answers for the war. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we get into our final thoughts and our ratings?
I'm just really happy that we had a Sofia Coppola, like, seasoned actor in Kirsten Dunst pass it to a junior Sofia Coppola actress of Kaylee Spaney, because she was in Priscilla. So that was just a really crowning moment. Yeah, so it was like really cute that they both got cast here, and they had such like a intimate relationship. So that's one thing that I will say just as an add-on, because I love them both, and I think Kaylee Spaney is going to surprise the rest of us for years to come. So I'm really proud of her.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think she's been like honestly phenomenal, at least everything that I've seen of her work as well. But so let's get into our final thoughts and our ratings. So Amanda, what are your final thoughts and ratings for Captain America Civil War? Civil War.
Well, Captain America Civil War has a different rating, which I will not get into, or else I'm going to rant. But this Civil War by Alex... I had to say it. But this Civil War by Alex Garland, I originally gave it a 3.5 out of 5 because of the political commentary. But the second I kind of like rewired my brain, I did bump it to a 4 out of 5, which would be, I guess, like an 80 out of 100, technically. Yeah. 85 out of 100, like that, I can say.
I'd say so.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that I can say is that you have to go into Civil War not thinking about the political commentary. That's it. You just have to go into it with an open mind. It's about photojournalists. Like, forget about the title of the movie. That's not the focus here. And you just have to like feel what the photojournalists are feeling. And I think that Garland does an incredible job creating such an intense atmosphere throughout the entire film. And then that's what's going to suck you in.
Yeah, so as far as my final thoughts and ratings, I would also give it 80 out of 100. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I don't really have like any gripes with it, because it's like, you know, like, well, what is stopping me from making this like not a masterpiece, whatever, perfect film? It's just a really good movie, and it's just like I think for. Honestly, like, if I can give it a scaling rating from 4 out of 4, I would, if it wasn't out of 5, because like you said, everyone throws around the word masterpiece. Everyone's very liberal, no pun intended, from the context of this movie, but everyone's very liberal with the term masterpiece. Now, Dune Part 2, that is masterpiece.
That is in fact masterpiece. We can call it that.
That was in fact masterpiece. I gotta go see it again before it ends. Leaves theaters.
They're extending.
But yeah,
they're extending.
They are.
The IMAX run.
But you know, it's also happening during Ghibli Fest, and I'm torn because I want to go to both, so I got to figure it out. But when it comes, like, I mean, very few movies are masterpieces, but Civil War is a darn good film, and I agree with Amanda. I would not listen to any internet noise, any white noise about this film. I would just go into it and know that it's about photojournalism, and, you know, whether you like it from there or not, that's, you know, totally up to the listeners out there. But I think it's a movie that everyone should see, because it's a little bit of a friendly reminder, but it also it paints a beautiful picture, oddly enough, of the horrors and the spoils of war, but how it affects everyone else, everyone else's lives who necessarily didn't even want this war to happen altogether. So yeah, I would definitely give it a 80 out of 100. But with all that said, it pretty much wraps up our episode here today. Aamanda, thank you so much for coming on. Wanted to take this time for you to let our listeners know what you have coming up and where they can find you on the internet.
This was so great. Thank you so much for having me on. You guys can always follow me over at AMXND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. And you can check out my website, candidxcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema.
All right. And of course, I will have Amanda's links to all of her work and the episode notes of this specific episode. And that concludes today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a movie lover in need, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love for the Film Optix podcast. And really quick, let's take a sneak peek at what's coming up next on the show and what you can actually listen to now. So as far as what you can listen to now, you can listen to our Monkey Man review, as well as our Immaculates review and our Godzilla X Kong episode that is out for everyone to listen to. And for upcoming releases, we're going to be covering Quiet on Set, which I think Aamanda might be joining us for that as well. So if you liked what she has said in this episode, definitely check. That's one that's going to be coming out within the coming week, I would say. We're also going to be covering Abigail. I got a screener for that today. Or not for today, but a screener invite today. Yeah. So I'm very excited for that. And we're also going to be covering shows such as Shogun Season 1 as soon as that finishes up, X-Men 97, so on and so forth. It's going to be crazy. I don't know what else is coming out in April. I actually don't even know right now off the top of my head, but...
Isn't the new Guy Ritchie film coming out next week? Because I forgot about that entirely.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I still have to watch The Wrath of Man. I have it.
I haven't seen that either, so don't worry.
I love The Gentleman. That was a good movie.
Good. Yeah.
They made that into a Netflix show, didn't they?
Yeah, I heard the show was pretty good. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
I haven't either. I don't know. Maybe you should stop watching Bridgerton, you know?
Listen, okay? I can't stop, won't stop. It's so bad. It's an addiction.
I dropped off after season 1. I wanted to watch season 2, and I just never got around to it. So I'm like, it's too late for me.
It's not. You should watch it. I'm forcing you to watch it.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it if you watch.
Oh,
yeah, you're right.
See? Haha.
Wow. One, it's in the backlog. It's in the backlog. It's there. But for all of our listeners out there, thank you all for listening. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That helps us out with placement. And stay connected with us by following us on Twitter, Instagram, Thread for the latest updates, all that social media garbage. That was Aamanda, and I'm Christian, signing off. And remember, life is like a movie. So go out there and make it a blockbuster.